excited to be seeing you today. Today we're going to read a book. We're going to start with chapter 1 of the book called Sisterhood is the Strongest Magic. All Hail the Queen. And it has me and my sister Anna on it. All right, so let's begin in chapter 1. So in Arendelle, I looked out my castle windows. It was a glorious morning in the kingdom. The sun shone brightly. It danced across the waters of the fjord. Below, the people of Arendelle were just starting the day. Shopkeepers opened the windows and doors. Fishermen walked to the wharf. Ice harvesters set out for the frozen lake nestled in the mountains. I was proud of my village and the people in it. They had come to trust me, even though I wasn't like most queens. Most queens couldn't cast spells of ice and snow. Most queens couldn't make a walking, talking snowman. I think you know who that is. Most queens couldn't accidentally set off an eternal winter, leaving the people in the village completely frozen. Well, not so long ago, I had been worried that the people of Arendelle wouldn't accept me because of my differences. But to my delight, they had embraced me wholeheartedly. I stepped back from the window. The beautiful weather made me long to go outdoors, but I had royal duties to attend to. I turned to my desk. The plans I had been working on for the town's new plumbing system were waiting. The pipes and canals would carry water to every part of the village, but the builders couldn't start without my go-ahead. I sat down and picked up the plans. Seconds later, the door to my study sprang open. Of course, it was my younger sister, Anna. She bounded into the room. Her eyes were brimming with excitement. She said, "Do you know what day it is?" I said, "Tuesday?" She said, "Today is the day we cross number 3 off the list." She hurried over to me, unrolling a long scroll of paper. It was her list of things to do in Arendelle. She had been keeping it ever since I became queen. Anna cleared her throat to announce number 3. "Florian's famous Flangerdorfers," she said. "Flangen what?" I asked. "Flangendorfers, the most delicious dessert in all of Arendelle," she explained cheerfully. I shook my head, puzzled. I'd never heard of a Flangerdorfer. "Aren't you excited?" Anna asked. She took my hand and pulled me to my feet. I said, "I am, but I have work to do." She said, "How can you work on a day like this?" She twirled around in the shaft of sunlight shining through the windows. "Come on, Elsa, just one Flangendorfer." I bit my lip as I considered. It was such a beautiful day. One Flangendorfer wouldn't hurt. So I said, "Okay." I agreed with her. She whooped with delight. She said, "I love our visits to the village. There's a whole world out there." Her excitement was contagious, and I couldn't help but smile. We walked through the palace gates, because they were open, and we strolled through the cobblestone streets of the town. By now, the village shops had opened. The town square was filled with merchants. Some wheeled carts of fruit for sale. Others sold beautiful scarves and jewelry. Many waved to us. She said, "Isn't this wonderful? Just look at all there is to see." I noticed a small girl making her way through the crowd. She carried a bouquet of fresh flowers. She had 2 dark braids that bobbed up and down. Kind of reminded me of Anna's braids. But she skipped happily towards us. She held up her flowers to me. I smiled and reached out to take the bouquet, and I asked her what her name was. "Ingrid," the girl said quietly. And here's a picture of me and Anna running through. That was when we were going through the palace. Now that Ingrid was face to face with me, she seemed quite nervous. She lowered her eyes and dropped into a deep curtsy. I said, "It's okay, don't be shy." I took the bouquet from the girl's trembling fingers and I said, "Thank you for the flowers." It was so sweet of her. You know, I was very shy for a very long time when I was locked away in my room. So I understand what it's like to be shy. Ingrid remained absolutely still. She looked like she had no idea what to do. Anna noticed her confusion and gently raised her from her curtsy. She leaned down to whisper in Ingrid's ear, "She's not as intimidating as she looks," Anna joked, pointing to me, and I was smiling. I didn't look the least bit intimidating. Ingrid giggled. She waved timidly towards me, and I waved back. "Oh, what's that on your dress?" Anna asked Ingrid. She pointed to her bright blue pinafore. Curious, Ingrid glanced down. As soon as she did, Anna playfully tweaked her nose. "Just kidding," she said. Ingrid laughed and squealed in delight. Anna's super silly. She seemed to forget about her nervousness. about meeting me. She made another curtsy and darted off towards the square. How adorable, Anna said, leaning over to sniff the flowers. She plucked a sprig of purple heather from my bouquet and tucked it behind her ear. I smiled. Anna definitely had a way with people. We weaved through the crowd of villagers in the square. I asked Anna, "Are you sure you know where you're going?" She said, "Of course. I've been planning this visit forever." "Forever," I said doubtfully. "Well, maybe not forever," Anna admitted, "but at least since you became queen." I remembered the day of my coronation. Until then, the castle gates had been shut. None of the villagers had been allowed inside. It was all because I hadn't wanted my powers to hurt anybody. I had to conceal, don't feel, don't let them show. I had thought the only way to keep everyone safe was to keep them out. On the day I became queen, though, the castle gates had been opened wide. Back then, I had been worried about my secret. I had been worried about meeting the townspeople. But Anna, on the other hand, couldn't wait to welcome them. Do you remember the song she sang that day? For the first time in forever, I'm getting what I'm dreaming of. Well, she was super excited, to say the least. Now, I was relieved that I didn't have to hide my powers anymore. I could just let them go. Anna and I, could leave the palace anytime we liked. Although I was free to explore, new people and places took some getting used to after all those years alone. Lost in thought, I didn't notice the gruff fisherman in front of me. I accidentally walked into them, knocking his basket of fish onto the cobblestones. "I'm so sorry," I said. The fisherman grumbled until he realized who I was. One look at me changed his entire expression. "No, I'm sorry, Your Majesty," he said formally. "Please, it was my fault," I said, smiling. I bent down to gather up the fish. No, I'll take care of that," the fisherman insisted. He bowed deeply and waved me aside. I hesitated. I didn't want the villagers to treat me differently just because I was the queen. I wanted to help. Anna had been watching the whole scene. She tapped the fisherman on the shoulder. "Hey, she's not that kind of queen," she whispered. "What kind of queen is that?" the fisherman asked. "The off with his head kind," Anna replied. "She's the kind who really wants to pick up the fish. I think you should let her do it. Anna does know me pretty well." The fisherman looked from Anna to me and back to Anna again. Said, "Are you sure?" "I'm sure. In fact, the princess insists," Anna said, pointing to herself. The fisherman relaxed. A broad smile spread across his face. "Well, if the princess insists," he said. He moved aside and let me help him collect his fish. In no time, they placed all of the shiny silver trout in the basket. The fisherman thanked me and Anna for our help, and he disappeared into the crowd with his fish. I said, "How did you do that?" Anna said, "Do what?" And I replied, "He was worried I'd be angry, but you knew just what to say." Anna shrugged and said, "I don't know. It's not magic. I just talked to him. I guess I'm a talker. I'm sure you all know that." I said, "I talked to him too." Anna replied, grinning, "Yes, but you're very queenly." She held up her hand and waved stiffly to the crowd to demonstrate. "I don't wave like that," I said. "You make me look like some kind of ice princess." "Well, aren't you?" Anna teased. "I prefer Snow Queen," I said lightheartedly. "You're the princess." Anna laughed. We linked arms and crossed the square. "We're almost there," Anna said. Florian's famous Flingendorfers was just down the road. I could already smell the sweet pastries, and you know us, we love our pastries and sweets. Just then, my ears pricked up. A band of village musicians was playing at the edge of the square. The townspeople had gathered to listen. They clapped and swayed to the music. Anna and I were charmed by the bubbly melody. We walked closer to the band, clapping and snapping along. I drew several coins from my purse, and I dropped them in a nearby jar for the musicians. The musicians recognized me, and they stopped playing and bowed deeply to me. They picked up their instruments again afterwards. They played a slow, dignified song. It was Arundel's royal anthem. I tried my best to clap along, but the song was quite slow. It sounded nothing like the cheerful song the band had been playing moments before. The villagers began to fidget. Arundel's royal anthem wasn't just slow, it was also long. Suddenly, Anna hitched up her skirts. She kicked up her heels and started to dance, of course. The musicians noticed and played faster. They wanted to keep up with her sprightly steps. I laughed and danced along with Anna. The anthem had never sounded so good. Soon the villagers joined the dancing with my sister and I. Everyone moved happily in time to the music. We danced across the cobblestones all the way to Florian's famous Flangendorfers. Well, that was chapter 1, everybody. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, whatever that means. If you're doing crafts, if you're hanging out with your parents or your siblings, if you have any. And I hope you get to have a chance to enjoy some nature, because I heard it's very lovely there this time of year. Bye, everyone.